by journalist Eric Ryan, and he's joining us live from Georgia in the United States. Very good evening from here, Eric, and a very early morning there. Thanks for sparing time and joining us. Much appreciated, Eric. But then these reports keep coming in of USAID funding projects which apparently aim at strengthening democracies, but ultimately benefit some kind of American agenda. And now, of course, it is clear that the Trump administration is not liking it, this kind of expenditure on strengthening democracies. I mean, what's really happening in the United States? Ultimately, a lot of things coming out of the cupboard.
Well, thanks for having me. You're absolutely right. There is a lot happening here. We're going through this transition where President Trump promised to clean up our expenditures. So when he came in power, obviously Elon Musk has head up the Doge investigations with his team of auditors. And the amount of wasteful spending that they're finding is astronomical. However, what's more disturbing is the amount of apparent influence that our previous administration was funding to disrupt other nations. And that is a problem, and I think a lot of Americans will agree that we need to clean this up, which is going to fall under President Trump's America First policy, where we back away from getting involved with other countries and worrying about getting our own issues taken care of, which part of that is going to be our funding. USAID is a problem. We're seeing a lot of what I would consider corruption coming out of that fund. That's we're seeing carry over into India and in India's elections. So that's a problem for America. That is not something that we stand on here, where we should not be paying for influence in other countries' sovereignty and in their own international affairs.
Eric, just stay with us. I'll come back to you for another question, but just to give viewers an idea of the kind of reactions that's been coming in. So, for example, the ruling party, BJP's IT cell head, Amit Malviya, took to social media and posted that the US machinery is spent upwards of $486 million to the consortium of elections and political processes strengthening, including $22 million for inclusive and participatory political process in Moldova and $21 million for voter turnout in India. $21 million for voter turnout is indeed a big sum. Then he goes on to say, that is Amit Malviya goes on to say, that this definitely is external interference in India's electoral process. Coming back to you, Eric. Now, this is influential person in the ruling party who's taking this view, which is that Americans seem to have had attempt at interfering in Indian democracy, Indian elections. This is clearly influencing India's sovereign function of holding elections. You think the DC establishment also sees things along those lines, because Doge might be doing it just to cut its debt and deficit, but the fact is that in doing so, a lot of these skeletons are coming out of the cupboard?
I see this as a very, very well-orchestrated, kind of well-oiled machine. So this does. I would say that the allegations from India are going to be valid, that there is some interference. It seems to fit what has happened in India seems to fit what they had attempted here in the United States. It is almost a very similar pattern of how elections were attempted to be interfered, that we have funded in our own country. So when I look at it from the Indian perspective, it appears that a lot of those scenarios matched what we saw here in the United States. So I would say that the allegations are going to be valid. I think President Trump is going to work to get this cleaned up. and to allow India to have non-interfered elections in the future. So that way the people's voices in India can get properly heard without having outside interference. All
right. And you think that now that this is happening, things like this would ultimately stop, and we are going to see an America which really does not interfere as a policy into other democracies and the elections?
Yeah, I think this is going to turn out to be a good thing. Yes, it happened. However, now that other countries are revealing this and other countries are asking for an audit of USAID to find out how much influence happened in their own countries, this is going to hold American bureaucrats accountable for these funds that they've been funding. This is going to be a good thing because it's not going to just be President Trump picking on the left. Now this is going to be an international issue where many other nations are going to come to the United States and say, hey, why are you guys doing this? Why is this happening? And who does the blame? And we need some accountability and some assurance that this is not going to happen anymore. And then they're going to want to know who in their own country has been infiltrated by this money. And so I think this is going to overall open up a lot of positive opportunity for a lot of countries to get some of their own corruption along with ours cleaned up, so maybe we can have a little bit more honesty on the global stage.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric, for joining us with that perspective from United States. Eric Rand, a journalist, joining us from Georgia. Thanks again, and much appreciated joining early morning from there.